kid? Do you want to tell some
Oh, I
memories?
don't want to bore you.
You never bore
She
me.
loves your stories.
I love your
But I do
stories.
have
But
next-
can you take the TV down? Sorry.
Yeah, I always look forward to the summer because my next door neighbor only came in the summer to stay over with him, his wife and family,
Uh-huh.
and he was a clown on television.
Yeah.
There was a show called The Big Top, and once in a while he would take me in to work with him on a Saturday, and I could be right there as part of the audience.
Oh.
So I enjoyed that. And
Mm-hmm.
a lot of good memories. Oh, a couple of girls that I won't tell you all the details of. One's name was Colleen, and I do know her brother now. This is all those years, 45 or so years ago, 50, and he still visits her.
Wow.
He lives in Florida, but she lives up in Lumberton.
Oh.
So I said, one day maybe I should swing by there and I'll have some good memories maybe to talk about.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
We really appreciate Stephen and all he helps us with and so on.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
And I did get to see his mom briefly on the way back. And she's hanging in like I am.
They like you.
But she's quite a bit younger than me because she and my youngest cousin went to high school together in Old Mount Valley. So,
And did you live with your grandma and grandfather?
well, my father went off to war, and my mother did not want to live alone at the house my grandfather built for them in Hainesport. And so supposedly during the war, we did stay with my grandmother and grandfather down here, and my mother worked for the New York Building Shipyard in Camden during the war years because they hired a lot of women, and that was her job. And at the end of the war, the American Air Force, which my father was in, some of them, because he was stationed in China, some of them were made to stay behind and help train the Chinese Air Force, which my father was one of those, and he had no choice. Well, someone, a very suspicious person, told my mother my father was using an excuse because he didn't want to come back
Wow.
to me and her. Well, it was all right. She didn't know it. So
Wow.
the first thing she knew, some man who was related to the person who gave the phony business introduced her to a local man, an Italian from Haddon. And before I knew it, my mother, well, I say it before, but all I know is what I've been told. My mother filed for a divorce,
Yeah.
thinking my father had left her
Yeah.
and married that guy.
Wow.
And when she found out, it was too late. She already remarried and all that.
Was he nice, the new guy? The Italian guy was nice to you?
That what?
Was he nice to you? The
Well, I
new.
was just a little boy,
Mm.
about 5, 6 years old. And I was only told the true story and everything later. But I was told my father deliberately left my mother for some Chinese women. That wasn't true at all. And so by the time he got back, it was too late. And so eventually the house that my grandfather built for them was sold. And my father moved back in with his mother and father. And I didn't see him for a couple more years. And then he had opened a business on Route 38
Mm-hmm.
in Hainesport. And so one day, one of my relatives had contacted him and took me up to meet him again after all those years. And we really hit it off. And he took me then to see his mother and father, my other grandparents.
Mm-hmm.
And they remembered me from when I was just a little boy and treated me extra special. I was the only grandchild.
Oh.
And I used to, every couple of weekends, my father would come down and get me and take me up to spend the weekend with him and my grandparents.
That's nice.
So that's the way that went. But no, he never had a chance.
Yeah.
And eventually, my mother got fed up with the man that got her and
Mm-hmm.
divorced him, but it was too late. She already had 2 children by him.
Wow.
And so,
Are you in contact with them? Are you in contact with the children? Like half?
they're both dead.
Oh.
Unfortunately, my half-sister, I guess you could call her, worked for Bell Telephone. And we're younger and so on. So every so often, her boss, in this nice weather, would have a patio party at his house for them.
Wow.
And she went to one of them and asked to use the restroom. So they said, well, you go in that door, and the second door will be behind the one that you open. Take the first door, and the second door will be the next. And so the door was open, and they hadn't realized what she would think was the first door was actually the second. And opened the door, and it was dark, so she reached in to maybe turn on a light, fell down the stairs, and broke her neck.
Wow.
And she was just, a young woman, more or less.
Oh, wow.
And so that's what happened
Yeah, it's a tragedy.
there. And my father never remarried until he was much older. And his wife treated me very, very nicely.
That's nice.
Yeah.
And you didn't want to get married ever?
No. No, I stayed with my grandparents. And I already graduated high school when my grandmother died. And my grandfather was getting up in age. So I bought a locality near Batstow, Pleasant Mills. And I wanted him to move in with me, and he wouldn't do it. So I stayed with him yet, even though I had the cabin until he passed on. And then I moved in down there.
That's nice.
And that was really, really nice. But the taxes, the property taxes, got so high that I just couldn't, on my teacher's salary, I couldn't do very well.
Right.
During the deep debt.
Yeah.
So a chance came to buy the old house that was right in back of here. It's still, there's a big hot pile where the house was.
Right.
And then I moved back here And then I wanted to open, because I was going to retire, an early retirement, a Russian tea room.
Oh,
And that's why I bought the property in Mount Holly. So it could be open as a tea room.
right.
And the cooking would all be done in a professional kitchen. And then I would have like a warm-up kitchen just to warm things up. And the township turned me down.
Hmm.
So that's where, when the old house, the house I was in, started to deteriorate, well, I moved up to Mount Holly
Mm.
to be in the building. I went to open the tea room, and eventually that's how I got to meet this one.
Yeah.
Now tell about when you were a kid, when you went to Mexico. When you went to Mexico with Uncle Eddie.
Yeah. You mean what? The señorita?
Yeah, in Spanish. That's like a very traditional Spanish. And that's tarot. Well, these are the Spanish playing cards.
Yes.
But they
Oh,
also.
explain.
You can. There's games that you can play with it, or they use them for tarot card readings.
Right. So can you read the? Do you know how to read the tarot?
No, I don't. I don't know. I'm trying to learn actually. But yeah, that's a very traditional
Yeah.
from the islands. See, and traditionally they would. Saint Lazarus,
Yeah.
who's the leopard, he was a leopard.
Oh.
So like for like healing people like with seizures and illnesses.
Right.
So what you would do is you would burn like cigars.
Yeah.
And then you would, sometimes you see which they would put like shots of rum,
Yeah.
and then you got water. So this is violet water.
Oh.
That's Florida water,
Yeah.
which is another very traditional.
Yeah.
It's very traditional.
Are you connected to this?
No, he's not. No.
No.
He's
What do you think about it?
witchy.
It's a loco.
Each of their own. I could say he's crazy.
Why? What does he do crazy?
No, I just said some of his beliefs I could say might be crazy.
Like what?
Oh, God.
See, but that has connections actually. So what it was is that they brought, so the African slaves, when
Okay.
the African slaves came over, they brought their religion. And what happened was the Spanish didn't like the idea of these slaves practicing their old religion. So they used saints.
Yeah.
So for different African goddesses and
Yeah.
gods. And that's where you get. So that's why you see like the different saints, they represent different gods and goddesses. And so some of the practices, which you would not appreciate, but they're very African.
Why I'm not appreciate?
Oh well, no, because they actually do animal sacrifices. They still do it,
Yeah.
which
It's paganic.
not satanic. It's just they go way
Paganic, not satanic.
Okay.
Paganic.
back. Yeah, they go way back to Africa.
Yeah.
I mean, there's all kinds.
Also in Judaism you have it. You have it in all the ancient religion.
Yeah.
Like to sacrifice animals.
Yeah,
They
I mean,
change
even the
it.
Jewish religion at
Yeah.
one point used to do,
Yeah.
sheep. I know that was a big thing.
Sheep and
Goat, I think, right?
no,
Pigeons.
hens.
Yeah, pigeons. They do
Yeah.
that.
Hens. Chicken.
Chickens, yeah.